The sky was burning. A bright streak of fire cut across the heavens as the human ship tore through the alien atmosphere. The metal hull screamed. Flames wrapped around its sides and inside. Alarms wailed in a language only one man could understand. Captain Daniel Cole gripped the controls, his jaw tight, his body shaking as the ship plunged toward the unknown. "Come on. Hold together," he whispered to the machine. But deep down he knew it was useless. Gravity pulled, systems failed, and then the final crash. The ground shook as the wreckage tore into the barren soil of the lonely planet. Sand and dust rose in a great wave, blotting out the light. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then movement. Daniel coughed, his chest aching as smoke filled his lungs. Sparks leapt from broken wires above his head. Slowly, painfully, he pulled himself out of the pilot's seat. His vision blurred, blood trickled down his forehead, but he forced himself forward. The hatch was half crushed, but with one last push he kicked it open and fell into the sand. The air was thin, strange, and cold. The sky above glowed a strange shade of violet, clouds swirling like painted smoke. Behind him, his ship lay in ruins, a twisted skeleton of fire and steel. He was alive. Barely. Alone. At least. That's what he thought. As Daniel staggered away. From the burning wreck, he noticed something odd. Footprints. Not his own. They were slender, sharp at the toes, pressed deep into the dust. Fresh. Too fresh. His heart raced. His mind screamed danger. He reached for his sidearm, but the crash had torn it from his belt. He was defenseless. The wind whispered through the empty dunes, carrying strange sounds, soft, almost like voices. Daniel turned, scanning the horizon, but there was nothing. Only shifting sands, the wreckage, and the footprints that trailed into the distance. Every survival instinct told him to stay near the ship, to wait, to build a signal fire. But something stronger pulled at him, the need to know who or what had been watching. He followed the trail. The planet was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects, no signs of life except the prints. The silence pressed against his ears, heavy and unnatural. Then suddenly he heard it. A whisper. At first, he thought it was the wind again. But no, this was different. It was a voice. Soft, melodic, almost human. It spoke his name. Daniel. He froze, every muscle in his body locked tight. How could anyone here know his name? Who's there? He shouted, his voice echoing across the dunes. No answer, only the whisper again, closer now. He turned quickly and saw movement. A figure stood on the ridge above him, half hidden in the swirling dust. Tall, elegant, long hair moved like liquid silver in the wind, catching the strange light of the sky. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The figure stepped forward, and the dust cleared just enough for him to see her face. It was not human. Not entirely. Her eyes were too large, glowing faintly in the dim light. Her skin carried a soft, otherworldly hue, like pale blue crystal. And yet her features were striking, almost beautiful, with a grace that no human could carry. Daniel stumbled back. "Stay away," he warned, though his voice betrayed the fear rising in his chest. But she didn't attack. She only tilted her head, studying him with strange curiosity. Then she spoke again, her voice smooth as silk. "You survived." Daniel's pulse hammered in his ears. "Who are you?" The alien woman didn't answer. Instead, she stepped aside, and his eyes widened. Behind her, more shadows emerged. 1, 2, 3. More figures appeared on the ridge, moving with silent grace. Their eyes glowed in the same strange way, their hair shining under the violet sky. Each one was different colors, different shapes, but all with the same ethereal beauty that stole his breath away. 10, 15, 20. Pairs of glowing eyes watching him. Daniel's throat went dry. His instincts screamed at him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. He had faced battles, storms, and death. Before, but nothing like this. They were not soldiers. They carried no weapons. Yet the way they looked at him made his heart pound harder than ever. Not like prey. Not like an enemy. Like something else. One of them stepped forward, her lips curving into a faint smile. She whispered a single word. Mate. Daniels. Blood ran cold. The women around her leaned closer, whispering among themselves, their voices carrying this strange hunger. He could not understand their language fully, but the meaning was clear in their eyes. They wanted him. The burning sky above roared with thunder as the wreckage of his ship crackled behind him. Alone, unarmed, trapped on a strange world, Daniel realized one terrifying truth. This lonely planet was not empty, it was full. And he was the only human here. The alien beauties closed in, their glowing eyes fixed on him, their whispers rising like a chant, and Daniel knew his fight for survival had only just begun. Daniel's heart raced as 20 pairs of glowing eyes stared down at him. The whispers grew louder, wrapping around him like a net. He stumbled back toward the wreck, but the sand shifted beneath his boots. His breath came fast, every muscle tight with fear and disbelief. Then it happened. One of them stepped forward. She moved with slow, deliberate grace, like a predator circling prey. Yet her eyes, they held no hatred. Instead, there was a strange softness, as if she had found something long lost. Daniel's throat went dry. He forced his voice to stay steady. Stay back. I don't want trouble. But she didn't stop. The alien beauty walked closer, her long hair glowing faintly under the violet sky. Her body was slim, tall, but there was strength in her posture. Her lips parted, and when she spoke, her voice was calm, too calm. You are human. Daniel froze. The word struck him harder than any weapon. She spoke his language. Not perfectly, but enough to cut through the silence. Yes. Human, Daniel replied carefully, his hand still half raised in defense. Who are you? The woman tilted her head, studying him like a scientist might study a rare creature. Her glowing eyes scanned his face, his hands, even the torn fabric of his uniform. Then she said something in her own tongue, a low, melodic phrase that echoed among the others. Immediately, the 20 alien women whispered together, their voices rising like waves crashing against rocks. Some of them smiled. Others frowned. A few hissed with sharp disapproval. Daniel understood none of the words, but he understood the tension. They were not united. The first alien taller than the rest, with silver hair that flowed down her back, raised her hand, silencing the others. She turned to Daniel again. You, come with us. The command was simple, but the weight behind it was heavy. Daniel shook his head. No, I don't even know who you are. Why should I follow you? For the first time, her expression changed. A faint smile touched her lips, one that carried both beauty and danger. She stepped even closer, until Daniel could see the strange patterns that shimmered faintly across her skin like living tattoos that shifted with the light. You will die alone, she said softly. With us, you live. The others murmured again, some nodding, some glaring with open hostility. Daniel's mind raced. Was this a rescue? A trap? He didn't know, but one thing was certain. He had no weapon, no supplies, and no way off this planet. Before he could answer, a sudden growl echoed across the dunes. The sound was deep, primal, and close. The alien women turned sharply, their glowing eyes narrowing in unison. Daniel spun, scanning the shifting sand. His chest tightened as the ground began to tremble. Then it rose from beneath the sand. A massive beast erupted, its skin dark and jagged like stone, its jaws wide enough to crush a man in a single bite. Its roar shook the air, and its 6 legs dug deep into the ground as it lunged forward. Daniel stumbled back, panic surging through him. The women, however, did not run. The silver-haired alien stepped in front of him. She raised her hand and A strange energy shimmered across her palm. With a sharp cry in her language, she unleashed a blast of light that struck the creature's head. Staggering it, another alien leapt forward, faster than Daniel's eyes could follow, her hands glowing with burning sparks. She struck the beast's side, driving it back with a flash of fire. The fight erupted like lightning. The alien women moved with deadly grace, their bodies twisting, their powers burning bright in the dark sand. They attacked as one, shouting, leaping, striking with speed and force that no human soldier could match. Daniel could only stare. They weren't just beautiful. They were powerful, dangerous. Within moments, the beast collapsed, its body smoking from wounds no human weapon could make. The sand fell silent again, broken only by the alien whispers. The silver-haired leader turned back to Daniel. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "You see," she said, her voice calm once more. "Alone, you die. With us, you live." Daniel's chest heaved, his mind spinning. She was right. Without them, he would already be dead. But the way they looked at him, it wasn't kindness. It wasn't mercy. It was something else. As the women gathered around him, some touching his arms, some circling with hungry eyes. Daniel felt the truth sink deeper. They didn't just want him to survive. They wanted him. The silver-haired one leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "Come, human," she whispered. "Your fate begins with us." And as Daniel stood, surrounded by 20 alien beauties under the burning violet sky, he realized his nightmare, and perhaps his destiny, had only just begun. Daniel walked through the shifting dunes, surrounded on all sides by the strange alien women. Their steps made no sound. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim violet light, always watching him, always measuring him. He felt like a prisoner, but no chains held him. Their presence alone was the cage. The silver-haired leader walked at his side. Her name, he finally learned, was Solara. She spoke in broken human words, enough to command, enough to warn. The others spoke in their own tongue, low whispers, sharp laughter, murmurs that carried an edge of rivalry. Daniel's chest tightened. He had faced hostile armies, the void of space, and the cold silence of death, but nothing unnerved him like their whispers. He wasn't sure if they were planning to protect him or fight over him. They led him through a canyon carved by time and storms. Strange crystals jutted from the rock, glowing faintly, painting the walls with eerie colors. The place felt alive, as if the planet itself was watching. Finally, they reached a hollow cave lit by soft blue fire. Here, the 20 alien women gathered, forming a half-circle around Daniel. It felt like a trial. Solara stood before him, tall and calm, while the others fanned out, each one unique. Daniel's eyes darted from face to face, and his breath caught. Weren't all the same. One had skin like polished bronze, her eyes glowing green like fire. Another had hair that shimmered like flowing water, her features sharp and regal. A third carried markings across her arms that pulsed with faint light, as if alive. Each was different. Each was striking in her own way, and each one looked at him as if he was more than human. The whispers rose again, sharper this time. Some of the women smiled at him, leaning forward with playful curiosity. Others frowned, their eyes cold and full of suspicion. Daniel felt the tension like a knife at his throat. Solara raised her hand, silencing them. Her voice carried power even in its softness. "He is ours," she said. Immediately, a dark-haired alien with glowing red eyes stepped forward. Her expression was fierce, her jaw tight. "No," she snapped in her own tongue, then switched to halting human words. "He is mine." The circle broke into chaos. Voices clashed, rising into heated argument. Some pointed at Daniel, others at Solara. The air grew thick with tension, jealousy, and desire. Daniel's stomach knotted. He understood now they weren't one united group. They were 20 rivals bound by survival, and he was the spark that could tear them apart. "Stop!" Daniel shouted, his voice echoing against the crystal walls. For a moment, the argument froze. All eyes turned back to him. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to stay firm. I don't know what you want from me, but fighting over me won't help either of us. The red-eyed alien hissed, but Solara lifted her hand again. Slowly, the cave grew quiet. Solara stepped closer to Daniel, her glowing eyes locking onto his. You do not understand, she said softly. Her fingers brushed across his chest, just over his beating heart. Daniel froze, every nerve on edge. Our people dying, she whispered. No males left, only us. We need you. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. He understood now. They weren't looking at him as prey or as a prisoner. They were looking at him as the answer to their survival. The whispers returned, softer this time, carrying an edge of hunger. 20 women, 20 glowing eyes, 20 gazes fixed on him, not as a man, but as something far greater. As hope. Daniel stepped back, shaking his head. No, this can't be real. But it was. The aliens moved closer, circling him slowly. Some reached out, their fingers brushing his arms, his shoulders, even his hair. Others simply watched, their eyes filled with a strange longing. Daniel's chest heaved. He had never felt so wanted and so trapped at the same time. Solara's voice broke the silence once more. You will choose, she said. The words hit him like a storm. His eyes widened. Choose? She nodded. One or all? But you will choose. The circle tightened, 20 alien beauties closing in around him, their whispers like fire in the dark cave. Some begged silently with their eyes. Some glared with deadly challenge. Daniel's breath quickened. He was alone, outnumbered, desired. And caught in the center of a storm unlike anything he had ever faced before. The glowing crystals pulsed brighter, as if feeding on the rising tension. The air itself seemed alive with energy, with hunger, with danger. Daniel realized then that survival was no longer just about food, water, or shelter. It was about choices, and the wrong one could kill him. The cave fell into silence again. All 20 women stared at him, waiting for his answer. The cave was heavy with silence. 20 alien women stared at Daniel, their glowing eyes locked on him like predators circling prey. His chest rose and fell with uneven breaths. The firelight flickered across their faces, showing beauty, and something darker beneath it. Solara, the silver-haired leader, stepped forward. Her calm presence silenced the others. You live, she said softly, because we allow it. But you must give us what we ask. Daniel's stomach tightened. He already knew what she meant, but hearing it spoken aloud made the ground feel even less steady beneath his feet. Before he could reply, another voice cut through the air. It was the red-eyed alien from before, the one who had challenged Solara. In the cave, she pushed forward, her gaze fierce and hungry. No, she hissed. He belongs to me. He will not serve all. He will serve one. The others erupted into whispers and growls, their voices overlapping like waves in a storm. Jealousy and desire tangled together until the air itself seemed to tremble. Daniel raised his hands, trying to calm them. I'm not property, he said firmly. I won't be owned. The aliens froze at his words. Some looked surprised. Others looked offended. A few smiled, as if his resistance only fueled their desire. Solara's voice rose above the noise. No one owns you, human, but you are necessary. Without you, we end. Her words struck like a blade. Daniel's mind spun. 20 alien women, an entire race reduced to this handful of survivors. No males left. No future unless he gave them what they wanted. But even as he struggled with the weight of it, something in their eyes unsettled him. It wasn't just desperation. It was obsession. That night, they gave him food, strange fruit that glowed faintly, water drawn from crystal pools. Daniel sat apart, his back against the cave wall, while the women whispered in their language. Their voices rose and fell like music, but he could feel the tension in every word. He knew what was coming, and then it happened. When the others finally slept, one figure broke away from the group. Silent steps carried her toward him. It was not Solara. It was not the red-eyed challenger. This one was smaller, her hair dark as night, her eyes soft with sorrow. She moved carefully, glancing at the others before kneeling beside him. Daniel tensed. "What do you want?" He whispered. Her voice was fragile, but it carried a truth the others had not dared speak. "Do not trust Solara," she said. "Do not trust any of them." Daniel's pulse quickened. "Then why are you here?" She hesitated, her glowing eyes reflecting the dim firelight. "Because I want you to live. The others, they see you as an answer, a tool. Solara wants to bind you to her. The red-eyed one wants to claim you for power. The rest will tear each other apart for you." Daniel leaned closer, whispering sharply, "Then what do you want?" Her lips trembled. Before she answered, "I want choice. I want freedom. Not just survival." Her words struck something deep within him. She wasn't begging for his strength or his body. She was begging for something else, for him to see her as more than part of the swarm. Daniel studied her carefully. She was different, not as fierce, not as commanding, but maybe honest. Before he could reply, she pressed something into his hand. It was a shard of glowing crystal, sharp and warm to the touch. "Hide this," she whispered. "If Solara learns I gave it, I will die." Daniel looked at the shard, then at her. "Why?" Her gaze burned with quiet intensity. "Because you will need it when the time comes." And then she slipped back into the shadows, leaving him alone with the dangerous gift. Daniel stared at the shard, his mind a storm. The aliens needed him. Solara demanded his obedience. The red-eyed one wanted his body for her power. And now, one had risked everything to warn him. He clenched the shard tight. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was a bargain he hadn't chosen, a dangerous bargain with 20 alien women, each with their own hunger, their own secret. And somehow, he was the prize at the center of it all. As the night deepened, Daniel lay awake, the whispers of the women filling the cave. His eyes never closed. His grip never loosened. Because now he knew the truth. The fight ahead wouldn't just be against the planet. It would be against them. The cave was quiet, but Daniel's mind was not. He could still feel the small crystal hidden inside his pocket, its faint warmth pressing against his leg. The alien woman who gave it to him, Lyra, as she had whispered her name, had taken risk for him. Her warning replayed in his mind again and again. Do not trust Solara. Do not trust any of them. And yet, he had no choice. Morning came with strange light breaking through cracks in the cave ceiling. Solara stood before him with calm authority. The others gathered around her like shadows. She ordered him to move with them, deeper into the planet's strange wilderness. Daniel followed, though every step felt heavier than the last. Hours passed. As they traveled across shifting sands and jagged rocks, his body ached, but the alien women never slowed. They were graceful, tireless, moving like predators across familiar ground. One of them walked at his side, not Solara, not Lyra, but another. She was tall, with golden hair that shimmered like fire in the violet sun. Her name was Naira. She had barely spoken to him before, but now her eyes lingered on him with curiosity. "You are strong," she said in broken words, her accent thick. Daniel gave her a cautious glance. "I'm only human." Naira tilted her head, studying him. "Human. Strong in different way. Not power, not speed, but spirit." Daniel frowned, unsure if it was a compliment or a warning. Still, there was something in her tone that felt genuine. That night, when the group made camp inside the ruins of an ancient stone structure, Naira stayed close. She brought him food, sweet fruit that melted on his tongue, water cooled by crystal. She sat near him, her golden hair catching the firelight, her glowing eyes soft. Daniel wanted to push her away. He wanted to keep his distance. But after days of fear, suspicion, and loneliness, her presence was different, warm, almost comforting. "You fear us," Nira said suddenly. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, you don't hide it. You fight among yourselves. You want me for something. I don't understand. How could I not be afraid?" Nira's lips curved into a faint smile. "Fear is wise, but not all of us want the same." Her hand brushed his, light as air. Daniel froze. "Then what do you want?" he asked. Nira's eyes glowed brighter, her voice lowering to a whisper. "I want you, not for power, not for leader. For me." Daniel's heart pounded. He had heard whispers, threats, demands, but never this. Never words so direct, so personal. He should have pulled away. Instead, he found himself leaning closer, caught by the strange beauty of her face, the way her voice carried both strength and longing. For a moment, the cave seemed to fade. For a moment, he almost believed her. But then the silence shattered, a sudden sharp pressure against his throat. Cold metal. Daniel's eyes widened. A knife. Another alien woman stood behind him, her hand steady, the blade pressed to his skin. Her eyes burned with jealousy, her lips curled into a snarl. It was the red-eyed one again. "Liar!" she hissed at Nira. "You want him for yourself." Nira leapt to her feet, her golden hair blazing in the firelight. "He is not yours, Kale." She shouted in her own language, her voice sharp like thunder. The cave erupted into chaos. Solara rose, her voice booming in command, but the others were already shouting, their glowing eyes flaring with emotion. Some sided with Nira, some with Kale, others whispering about taking Daniel for themselves. The circle that had once been silent was now fractured, torn apart by jealousy. Daniel's heart raced. He tried to move, but the knife pressed harder against his throat. The crystal in his pocket burned hotter, almost as if it was alive. "Stop this!" he shouted, his voice echoing against the stone walls. "You're going to kill each other." But his words were drowned in the storm of voices. Nira stood in front of him, her body tense, her eyes never leaving Kale's blade. "Hurt him, and I will end you," she warned. Kale's snarl deepened. "Then try." The two women clashed, their movements fast as lightning. Sparks of energy lit the cave as their powers collided. The others shouted, some trying to stop them, others fueling the fire with their own rage. In the chaos, Daniel ducked low, his hand gripping the crystal shard. For a brief second, he thought of using it, but he didn't even know what it could do. The fight raged on, stone cracking, firelight flaring. Nira and Kale's screams echoed as they struck with deadly force, and in that moment, Daniel realized something chilling. It wasn't just desire driving them. It was hunger, a hunger that could consume not only him, but themselves. As the dust and sparks filled the air, Solara's voice finally cut through with fury. "Enough!" she roared, her power shaking the very walls. The fighting stopped. Kale's blade fell to the ground. Nira stepped back, her chest heaving, her glowing eyes still fixed on Daniel. Solara looked at them all, her voice cold. "If you kill him, we all die. Do you understand?" The silence that followed was sharp as glass. Daniel's pulse thundered. He looked at Nira, at Kale, at Solara, and he finally understood the truth. This was not protection. This was not safety. This was a trap, and falling into it might mean losing more than his life. The camp was broken. Ash and dust still floated in the air after Nira and Kale's violent clash. Stones lay cracked, the fire had burned low, and the women sat apart, each one watching Daniel with sharpened eyes. No longer whispers, no longer games, now it was open rivalry. Daniel's chest heaved as he leaned against the cave wall. His throat still carried the faint sting of Kale's blade. His hand, hidden in the folds of his torn uniform, clutched the glowing crystal Lyra had given him. It pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. He knew the truth now. He wasn't a guest. He wasn't even a prisoner. He was the spark of their war. Solara stood before the others, her silver hair glowing faintly under the dim firelight. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. "This cannot continue," she said. "If we fight, we end. If we lose him, we end." The women muttered among themselves, their glowing eyes flashing in the dark. Some nodded. Some glared. Daniel finally spoke, his voice rough. "You can't just keep me here like a trophy. I'm not your property. I need to get off this planet." The silence that followed was sharp. Then, Kale's voice cut through it like a blade. "You will never leave. We will break before we release you." Her words were poison, but honest. Solara's eyes narrowed, and for the first time Daniel saw not just power, but something else, fear. Before she could respond, the ground shook. The crystals embedded in the cave walls flared violently, casting blinding light. Outside, the sound of thunder rolled across the desert. The women stiffened, their eyes darting to the entrance. "It comes," Solara whispered. "What comes?" Daniel demanded. No one answered. Instead, they rushed from the cave, pulling him with them. The sky above had turned black. A storm unlike anything Daniel had ever seen consumed the horizon, clouds boiling, lightning splitting the air, wind tearing across the sands with a howl that shook the bones. But this was no natural storm. The lightning struck the ground in jagged patterns, igniting the dunes into bursts of flame. The air itself buzzed with strange energy, bending, warping, alive. "The ruins," Solara ordered sharply. "We take shelter there." Daniel stumbled as they dragged him across the sand, his body weak from exhaustion. But when he looked ahead, his breath caught. Ancient towers jutted from the desert like broken teeth, half buried in sand and shadow. Strange markings glowed faintly on the stone, pulsing in rhythm with the storm. They ran into the ruins as the first wall of wind struck, hurling sand and fire across the desert. Inside, the storm's roar echoed, the stones trembling. The women lit faint blue flames across the halls, their light reflecting off carvings etched into the walls. Daniel squinted at them, strange figures, half human, half alien, carved in poses of unity. "What is this place?" he asked. Solara's voice was heavy. "The place of our beginning and our end." Before Daniel could question further, a crack of stone split the air. Part of the ceiling gave way, and a massive slab hurtled downward straight toward him. Time froze. Daniel braced, but a body slammed into him, shoving him aside. He hit the ground hard. Dust filled the air. When it cleared, his chest tightened. One of the women lay crushed beneath the stone. Her eyes glowed faintly, then dimmed, her breath shallow. Daniel recognized her. It was the quiet one with markings across her arms, the one who had barely spoken. She had saved him without hesitation. Daniel crawled to her side, his hands trembling. "No, don't stay with me." Her lips moved, her voice a whisper. "Human, must live." And then her light faded. The other women stood frozen, their glowing eyes fixed on Daniel. For the first time he saw grief on their faces. But behind it, more hunger, more need. Solara's voice was cold and sharp. "Do you see now, human? Even in death we protect you. You are not choice, you are destiny." Daniel's chest burned with rage. He clenched the crystal tighter in his fist. "No, I'm not your destiny. I will choose my own." The women murmured, their voices tense, their eyes dangerous. The storm outside roared louder, the ruins trembling. Solara stepped closer, her gaze unyielding. "Then choose, stay, and live as ours. Or fight, and die alone." The circle of 20 women closed in again. their glowing eyes bright in the storm-lit ruins. Daniel's heart pounded. His body ached. His mind screamed. The storm shook the world outside, but inside, a greater storm built around him. Because now, for the first time, the choice was his. The ruins shook with the storm outside. Lightning split the sky, casting jagged shadows through cracks in the ancient walls. Daniel stood in the center of the chamber, 20 alien women circling him like wolves around a fire. Their glowing eyes reflected hunger, fear, and something far deeper. Need. The crystal in his hand pulsed harder now, as if alive. He felt its heat spread into his arm, its rhythm matching his heartbeat. Lyra's warning echoed in his mind. Do not trust Solara. Do not trust any of them. Solara stepped forward, her silver hair whipping in the storm wind that poured through the broken ceiling. Her voice was steady, commanding, filled with ancient weight. Human, the time is done. You must decide. Daniel's jaw clenched. Decide what? Her glowing eyes narrowed. Stay and bind with us, or leave and die alone. The circle of women leaned closer, whispers rising, the storm answering them like a chorus of thunder. Some gazes begged. Some challenged. Some burned with jealousy so sharp Daniel felt it like a blade at his throat. But then, the crystal in his hand flared bright. The walls lit up. Carvings across the stone glowed, revealing hidden patterns, shapes of humans standing beside alien women, hands clasped, united. Not prey, not prisoners, partners. Daniel's eyes widened. This isn't just your home, he whispered. This place, it was built by humans. Shock flickered across several faces. The women murmured in their language, their voices tense and fearful. Solara's lips pressed into a hard line. Yes, she said at last, her voice low. Long ago, our creators came from your kind. They bound us to seek you, to need you. It is written into our blood. Daniel's chest tightened. He wasn't just a survivor here. He wasn't just a prize. He was part of something older, something designed. The storm outside raged harder, as if the planet itself demanded his choice. He looked at the 20 women, each different, each beautiful, each dangerous. They weren't united. They weren't even stable, but they were alive. And they saw him as the only way forward. His mind screamed at him to escape, to fight, to find another way. But his heart remembered Nira's warmth, Lyra's warning, the quiet one who had died to save him. They weren't monsters. They were broken, desperate, and maybe human in their own way. Daniel's grip tightened on the crystal until it cracked, releasing a blinding burst of light that silenced every whisper. The storm paused, the ruins trembling in stillness. He raised his voice, strong and clear. No one owns me, not Solara, not Kale, not any of you. If I stay, it won't be as your prisoner. It will be as your equal, your partner. Or I walk into that storm and take my chances. The silence that followed was heavy as stone. Solara's glowing eyes locked on his, sharp as blades. For a long, terrifying moment, he thought she would refuse. But then she bowed her head, slow and deliberate. As equal, she whispered. The others shifted uneasily, but one by one, they lowered their heads, some in respect, some in reluctant acceptance, some in secret anger. But they bowed. The storm outside began to ease, the thunder softening into distant echoes. The ruins glowed faintly, as if approving his choice. Daniel's body sagged with relief, but he did not smile. He knew this was not victory. It was survival. And survival always had a cost. He turned toward the broken archway, staring into the violet sky beyond the ruins. The planet was vast, dangerous, unknown, and yet, it was his now. There's 20 alien women stepped behind him, their glowing eyes still watching, still hungry, still uncertain. But for the first time, they were not fighting over him. They were waiting. Daniel took a deep breath, the storm wind brushing against his face. Then we start, he said softly. The screen of his story faded on his silhouette. 1 human, 20 alien beauties, and a lonely planet that had become his new home. But as the violet sky burned and the storm whispered again in the distance, one truth lingered in the air. He had chosen them, but had he chosen survival or his own trap?